So our next group that is coming up, they're talking about exploring the revolutionary impacts of NFTs in the music industry. So if you guys want to come on stage, I have Femi, Hannah, Mariana, Mehmet, and Kerem. And y'all got 15 minutes, so kill it.
Thank you, everyone. So we're going to talk today around NFTs and around how the panel here have applied NFTs within their projects and how it differs from what you would probably call the standard industry model. So let's start with Mariana.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to give a brief overview, so that's time for everybody to talk. So I've been in the music industry for 17 years, and recently, about a year ago, got into Web3. And I'm focusing now on the education of the music community in Web3 through events and activations. Also working in a project called Decentralize, which is basically the first tokenized hybrid music festival. So that's all kind of going on now. We've got Carnival as well in Brazil, Miami Music Week, and several other activations, all, as I mentioned, focusing on education and community building.
Hi everyone, I'm Kerem. I'm with Mehmet, and we are directors of Tilda Studio. So we've been active actually in the immersive art, digital art space for the past 7-8 years. Have done projects at Artec House in New York, in Dubai, in the UK. And just 2 years ago, we started developing tools for creating music NFTs, and we have done some generative art projects. So last year, we collaborated with Han and Nicholas Daniel, who are NFT artists in the generative space. We've done Algo Beats, which was minted on Art Blocks. Art Blocks, as you all know, is a generative, minting platform, and we utilize their unique minting technology to use the actual hash codes. And when you mint the hash code, it was a deterministic system, and all of the sounds, all of the visuals were coded. So it was completely on-chain, one of the first completely on-chain music NFT projects actually at the time. And we're currently working on some meta instruments, which are VR-based browser synthesizers. And we're about to release a Genesis series of 128, which is the MIDI number if you're into music production. So we're going to hopefully collaborate with Flying Lotus. We just had a discussion with him, might gift him one of them. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Mehmet Ünal. I'm composer, orchestra director, and software developer. I'm coming from a strong musical background, and I'm always trying to be a unique composer. So I'm fascinated by the beauty of technical objects, and I'm developing my own instruments for my creative process. In my perspective as an artist, this type of technology is really, really important, but I'm always looking for the utilities for this type of technologies. It's important for us. One might say, while that traditional composers like Beethoven, Mozart, were using traditional instruments like trumpet, piano, or those kind of instruments. And electronic music composers who, like me, compose sound themselves. And they are developing their own instruments for their creative process and finding their own sound. So because of that, I'm actually trying to use this type of new technologies, because we are right now passing from analog world to digital world. And that means this is the number of worlds. So for for creating sound or producing sound, right now I'm using stream of data, basically, not acoustic waves, not electricity or electron flows. This is really really interesting, actually, for me as a composer and conductor. So yeah, we are working together. We are always trying to push the limits of the music industry for creative way. Not we are trying to selling something, actually. We are just trying to be a creative always. Yeah.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah Bloom and I'm the founder of Music Mothership and Karma Head. So I'm also a musician. I spent 18 months in lockdown putting together an analog rock album on tape at my post-production analog studio. Then I kind of went through a process of trying to think, as an independent artist, how do I want to release this? What do I want to do? And part of that was that, you know, I was trading crypto and I had my ear to the ground with music NFTs, and I was like, where is the true value within it? And my co-founder and I, my sister and I, went through every music marketplace, every music NFT project, everything, to try and really fine-tune what the value was. And we found that it truly wasn't within selling masters. Obviously, we know it's extremely difficult for the commercial record labels to get into the space because they're tied up in recording contracts, royalties, sync issues, publishing, all that kind of stuff. So through proof of concept, we're partnering with Vinci, the marketplace, who we believe are really pioneering a new wave of blockchain technology. We have a white paper, so we're releasing a 12 of 12 collection, of which we'll be performing a bit later at the opening party at the final slot at 7 p.m. In addition to that, I'm also the founder of Music Mothership. So in doing like this one project, it's a bit of an experiment really, and we want to kind of bring a new stream of utility and not just try and you know, sell music as an NFT that already exists in like the Web 2 paradigm, and just what's the point? Like if you're going to take, you know, if you're going to go into Web 3, you have to be addressing like the issues that exist in Web 2 and be able to amplify that through Web 3 and make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, which we feel we've got nailed. And so with Music Mothership, we also are creating, we have a music catalogue of 500 songs, 40,000 music stems in addition to our studio. And we want to give artists the opportunity to be able to launch music NFTs in a successful way. We're also partnered with some of the biggest companies in the space, of which I'll be sharing a bit later at the performance. And ultimately, our mission is to restore the culture of music through NFTs and create an ecosystem within utility that really fine-tunes and brings home, like, okay, what relativity does it have to art, society, culture, all this stuff that's going on in the world at the moment? These things need to be spoken about and they need to be amplified through the arts. And we've got this sort of blockage going on with streaming and like commercial labels and all that kind of thing that really sort of detract from the true nature of music. And so in doing so, we keep it authentic. Like I personally have a background as a classical composer. I went to music conservatoire and all that, but that's not what I am. I'm a rock musician in my heart, and that's something that we want to bring forward. So if anybody would like to find out more, I have some QR codes and stuff too, which I can give to you, or feel free to like speak to me, ask me any questions as well, because we do have a 70-page business plan in which we have dissected all the problems within this current paradigm and how they can be solved, and we hope to contribute towards that whole paradigmatic shift into a new blockchain-led and collaborative era. Thank you.
Okay. So one of the key things that you've also touched upon is, I suppose, that knowledge gap from Web 2 to Web 3. You know, how are you bridging that gap in your project? Is it through education? Is it through, you know, Discords and community building chats?
Well, in my projects, education for sure, and community building, but also to make sure that we are developing Web3 projects, but for Web2 communities. So, you know, everything is built in Web2, so it's easy for them, especially because we are focusing on the music side of things. So yeah, for all of our events, they are all tokens, you know, and gated, but it's all Web2 system.
I mean, it's been a collaboration for us mostly. just we know the music side. We knew how to program a synthesizer with code, but the visual artists and other artists knew how to actually use the back end of it and use it creatively. And we just tested and failed. It took almost 8 months until we could try something on the testnet, even on art blocks. So of course documentations and everything helps, but you don't really learn anything before you execute on it with some people and try to make a product out of it. So that's been the main takeaway, collaboration for us, yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of bridging the gap, I suppose we're sitting at the moment in like Web.25 meets Web3 with our particular project. I'm not going to go into all of the utility, but we do have an aspect that caters to the Web2 community and the platform we're working with. Vinci are very focused on creating that bridge in a way that makes it accessible for music lovers and music makers too. So we have that aspect. In terms of what we're also doing with Music Mothership is we want to restore like the live culture. So I know that Mariana mentioned a decentralized festival. We'll be playing at that festival as well. They're here too. They're a great crowd. And, you know, kind of bring it full circle, coming from Web3 back into like the real world in terms of live music and how that can be amplified and how we can work together to do those kind of things and create revenue streams that are sustainable, that are like predominantly blockchain based, yet they still have the adaptability to go into aspects like publishing or sync and these other streams that are stronger than Web2 streaming. I feel like Web2 streaming is where it is at the moment, and you know, the whole point of like being in Web3 music for me is to move away from that paradigm in the long run in our roadmap and really like bring home like what is music, why do we do it, and yeah.
And then, Mehmet, you touched upon sort of the creative aspects around NFTs and its ability to sort of allow you that creative freedom. How does that manifest itself?
Yeah. My perspective always is looking a creative way, this type of technology. So right now, you know, we did a really interesting performance in Las Vegas with Kerem together. You can think like this. We played a concert, but we were not together. He was in Istanbul and I was in Las Vegas, and we played together on the same stage, but we were in different spaces. So how we did, Kerem?
I think, yeah, of course, like the NFT side of things is important. However, like the technology on the other sides are still also really interesting. For that, we actually use the IoT frameworks. So there was obviously some latency issues, but we did manage to do a performance just remotely, literally like miles away. And for that, it wasn't just blockchain. It wasn't just like, you know, being able to own anything. It's also about like integrating, you know, 5G is coming. So why not we have a performance that is like in the digital metaverse, but also on stage where like people from all around the world could connect, utilizing these other protocols too. So coming back to your question, we've been making instruments out of everything in the past years. Like we made a shoe instrument with Nike that was like in some stores where you could like play around with a gyroscope inside the shoe. It's just that like habit of how can I make music with this? Rather it's IoT, it's blockchain. So there are some like really cool generative, for example, melody creation patterns done in like these hackathons that I've been seeing. It's like we're looking at from a tool perspective, but of course, yeah.
Those are just instruments for us, these kind of technologies. You know, right now we are trying to build an oscillator working on blockchain, and we are trying to build a metronome working on blockchain. It's kind of it's like working metronome, but you can connect it and take some beats from there. It's this type of tech, we are trying to this type of creative ways, you know.
And Hannah, you talked about the current record label paradigm. Where do you see the difficulties in terms of replicating the structure that a record label brings within Web3?
Where do I start? I think when it comes to the music industry, we've got 3 major labels, if we're talking about commercial labels. Within that, there's different aspects of complicated legals which exist, and they are really the driving force behind the economy of the music industry. So if you break that down and you take an artist who is incredibly successful in the commercial realm, they might own 12.5% of their own music. Therefore, whenever they make the transition, as some commercial artists have, to the music NFT space, and they're literally selling something that already exists in Web 2, number one, my question to that point would be, like, why would I buy music NFT if I can already access it for free on Spotify? Secondary, like on a secondary note to that, is like they have so many sort of hoops to jump through, I think, in terms of there's publishing, there's streaming, there's sync, then you've got the rights that are split up between all the songwriters and all that kind of thing. So it makes it very difficult for them to change their business model and move into Web3. And like my own personal experience with it is that I have people from major labels calling me saying, like, how do we get into Web3 and like how do we create an NFT project? And you have to be really invested in the community. And I know a lot of people say it, but there is a subculture that exists within this Web3 paradigm where collectively we want to create a better world. And independent artists, I feel, are the ones who are going to propel that. And it's a case of having a proof of concept, right, that works. So within what we're doing with Vinci, we feel that it's taken, it's taken 10 months to build the project on top of, me being in the studio with 10 musicians for 18 months, which was supposed to be like a 3-month project. But ultimately, they're going to be like quite far behind. I think a lot of them don't really know what they're doing. And that's why they're, trying to get in contact with the likes of us. Because of that reason, also I think that they're very commercially orientated, and sometimes the worlds don't marry up if you've got the Web3 philosophy and the DeFi philosophy and people who are sort of rebelling against that, and then you've got the kind of commercial aspect where people are really trying to recreate the same business model in Web3. And there are a lot of problems that they express within it that need to be changed, and they're not necessarily the right people to solve it in my mind's eye, but that's just me.
So we've got about a minute left. So Mariana, what would your sort of key takeaways be with regards to how NFTs will change the way sort of your project works and the way your consumers, if you like, listen to your music?
Well, look, I've been working with like established artists, which is a different story, but for upcoming musicians, and I think Hannah might agree with me on that, it's very hard for them to live out of music completely. Most of them have got side jobs, have got to do something else. And I think that I wouldn't just say NFTs, but I would say this is a new platform for them to create something new. So they can create, doesn't matter how many followers they've got, doesn't matter what they've built in Web 2, they can build something new. Like I've known some artists, I've met some artists that were not making money before, and now they are making money, playing like for Decentraland, for metaverses, all those things, and they have built a very established and strong community. So I think it's just, and that's why we are doing also the festival, and also working on decentralized streaming platforms, so they actually have better chances of profiting from this, and having better exposure, I would say, and yeah, I think we are running out of time now, but if the next panelists are here.
Out of time.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you,
very much,
everyone.
everyone.